This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
So the Griffins win Saturday night. But what did it cost us? The Red Wings lost Saturday, the Pistons lost Saturday, the Walleye lost Saturday, and the Detroit Lions lost on Saturday. But the Griffins did win. But it seems like it cost us a lot as Detroit fans. Yeah.
I'm not ready to talk
day.
about that.
I know you're not. It's sad. It's super sad. But moving on from the sad note, welcome to the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
And Travis is not with us tonight. He got called into work overnight tonight, so it is just the two of us to recap an exciting weekend of Griffins hockey. We have 3 games to talk about, actually, since we last recorded. We have their Wednesday clash with the Chicago Wolves and then the back-to-back games at home this weekend to wrap up the 5-game homestand against the Cleveland Monsters. Outside of that, we'll have some other news and updates to talk about this weekend. A lot of fun stuff happening around Van Andel this weekend and the team. Before we jump into that, besides being sad about the Lions, Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm exhausted.
It was a long weekend.
It was a long weekend. I'm like, where are we? Friday with the craziness, Saturday with more craziness, and now it's 8 o'clock on a Sunday. I'm like, where did my day go?
My day was, I slept because we went out after the game last night to watch the end of the Lions game, obviously. And then I stayed up and went down to the Great Skate at like 2 a.m. and hung out there for a little bit. Then came home and just died because I had about 2 hours of sleep the night before and I had to work Saturday morning for the day job. So I was exhausted. I don't know how I made it to 2 a.m. I'm guessing just the pure amount of caffeine I was consuming all day yesterday. But at the same time, we survived. I'm here. I'm awake enough to do the show. And we have a lot to talk about. But before we dive into the games, let's talk quick news and updates. There's only one real piece of news. Well, I guess we could say 2. Biggest piece for the Grand Rapids Griffins is that it was officially announced yesterday that Carter Mazur, as long as things go well this week in practice, will return this coming weekend in Manitoba, which is huge for the Griffins. It's a huge boost to the lineup. Outside of that, Amadeus Lombardi still sidelined with injury. He's going to be the last player that's sidelined with injury as of right now, and there's still no timetable for his return. And then the other smaller piece of news that we all kind of expected after watching the Red Wings game last night and seeing that Alex Lyon was backing up is Ville Husso was reassigned to Grand Rapids last night as well. So he'll be back with the Griffins. We'll have 3 goalies again for the time being to see how that shakes out here. And then the other piece, too, from midweek, the goalie, speaking of him, that no one knows what he's doing, Gage Alexander, he's bounced between the Griffins and Toledo Walleye all season long, hasn't played a game. He was reassigned to another team in the ECHL. He's with Reading, played last night, got first star of the game. Freaking crazy how that works for him. So sees no action all season long, steps in and stops, I think, 24 or 25 shots with Reading last night. So good for him. Wow. That's a guy that we sat here all season so far going, I feel bad for this kid because he's just in the worst situation. He was part of that trade deal with Anaheim there. He ends up getting bounced around, doesn't get to play any games. When we talked to Austin Kaiser, he was like, it's a tough spot to be in, but he keeps just telling him to work, and that opportunity is going to come. Clearly, that message was received, and Gage went out there and took advantage of that opportunity. So good for him. I'm happy to see him playing.
That's crazy. So you guys texted me that this morning, or I don't know when, and it didn't register with me that who it was. I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then when you say this, I'm like, holy crap! This is the guy that's just been kind of hidden in the organization. Kind of, we kind of know where he's been, but they've been kind of shuffling him paper moves around, and goes out to Reading and just puts up. You said a shutout?
No, he stopped 24 or 25.
1 goal. They got the win.
Yeah, and got the win.
That's crazy good. Like, oh my gosh, Detroit is not going to have a goalie problem for much longer with the way these guys are performing.
It's crazy. We looked at Gage's numbers before he got here, and I'm like, interesting choice to have him in that trade there. But, paper moves, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't know what to expect. But, hey, good for him. He's playing. that's all that matters for him. I'm just excited that for him to not have to sit in the press box and he's actually getting game time action. So good for him. But yeah, that is all the news and updates that we do have for the organization here. There is some Toledo Walleye updates as well. They made some roster moves today. We'll save those and talk about those more on the Toledo episode later this week. If you want to see what they are now, you can head over to our social pages, check them out there. We posted all the updates this morning. But outside of that, man, let's dive into these Griffins games here because we do have a lot to talk about. Like I said, there was 3 games. So we're going to go back in time a little bit. So Wednesday evening at Van Andel Arena, where the Chicago Wolves came to town to meet with the Grand Rapids Griffins. And, you know, the Griffins came out of a rough weekend against Manitoba last weekend, dropping both games there. Chicago comes in red hot. You don't really know what to expect. And I think kind of message was received by the team from the coaching staff and everyone else on what they needed to kind of go out there and do. The Griffins played a fantastic game up and down the ice through all 3 periods in this game. Even, you know, with the first period being pretty tight, the Griffins didn't get a lot of shots in that period, but they still came out with a little bit more pep in their step that we didn't see all weekend long last weekend. So run everyone through the scoring as it went in that game here. Like I said, the Griffins win this one 5-2. And no goals in the first period. Second period, 14 minutes into it, Nate Danielson gets his 4th of the season from Elmer Soderblom and Tori Dello. Chicago does respond just a couple minutes later. Third period comes around. Andre Becker gets his 2nd goal of the season here on the power play. Kind of reinvigorates a power play that we spent last episode complaining about, which we'll talk about more here in a minute. But Becker from Dries and Shine on that power play there. A few minutes later, Elmer Soderblom on the power play gets his 4th of the season from Rafferty, and Sebastian Kosa getting his first ever pro assist. So congrats to him on that one there. A couple minutes later, too, after that, Austin Watson adds his 10th of the season from Josiah Didier and Nate Danielson. Empty net, shorthanded goal. Chicago does add one more goal there, which causes them to pull their goalie again. And Joe Snively, unassisted, gets his 14th of the season in the empty net there. Griffins go 2 for 3 on the power play in this game, 5 for 6 on the penalty kill. Tied in shots in this game, 26-26 with the Wolves. This was a weird game. It was your first Wednesday game in a long time now that you have a different job and can actually, be there on Wednesdays, which is really nice for me. So, like, what were your thoughts on this game overall, man?
I think it's my first Wednesday game that I've been able to go to in 3 years.
That's probably right, because I don't think you ever came to any of them with me when we weren't in the press box.
So it was an odd kind of day, and it was a low. I was surprised of the low attendance a little bit. I was just like, there's not much here, but it was loud. The crowd was loud, and coming in like Chicago coming in, I was a little nervous after giving up two games to Manitoba over the weekend, and then we come into Chicago, who's red hot, and I'm like, the game was so fast. Like, it was a fast-paced game, up and down, both ways. Like, it was just, I'm like, I hated the Manitoba weekend. I hated it. It was slow. Everything was like clogged up in the middle. I was just like, this is terrible. I hate this type of hockey. So watch Chicago, and I felt like they did come out pretty fat. Like, we came out a little bit with some energy, and it helped with Dom Shine like punching a guy right off the face off, basically.
It does help. Usually gets the boys going, you know.
But Austin Watson, I mean, I want to talk on him. Like, he's just crazy. Like, he was just everywhere last night on Wednesday night, just hitting everybody. Just like, that's where a lot of the energy came from as well throughout that game. But
yeah, let's talk Austin Watson before we talk about some of these goals here. If you look at the penalty sheet in that game, he had quite a few, and a couple, one we want to talk about here. There was an unsportsmanlike. I don't know what happened with this. We tried to ask post-game. Didn't get much detail here, but Austin Watson definitely was running his mouth a little bit on the ice, which he likes to do. Austin Watson likes to talk, and I think it was from the bench and got pulled off there. And my favorite moment outside of them winning and the goals in this game is there's a clip on our pages where you just see Austin Watson clapping for the officials as he gets called for that, which I'm like, buddy, you're going to get booted. Like, just stop there. Like, okay, calm down. But at the same time, it's what he does. This is his role on this team, but he can do it all. But God, when he's got to go out there and, cause a little bit of chaos, he's so good at it. Like, it makes it so much fun for everyone. And the boys on the bench get fired up with it too. And the hits he was throwing in this game, he was everywhere. If there was a guy that left himself vulnerable for a hit and he was on the ice, he was going to get hit by Austin Watson. And anytime the other team tried to pick on somebody else and they might have forgotten he was on the ice, all of a sudden the first guy in the scrum is Austin Watson. Like, I'm not starting a scrum if I'm the other guys and I see him on the ice. There's no chance. No chance. That guy terrifies me. He does.
You and other players as well, which we'll get into later.
oh yeah, we'll get into that one. But yeah, let's jump into the goals in this game, right? So Nate Danielson kicks the action off here from Elmer Soderblom and Torey Dello. Elmer makes a great play in the corner, great board battle win here, finds Nate Danielson wide open in the slot, and Nate just bangs it home. And, that's one of those things we kind of talked about last episode where Nate hasn't really been producing much on the point side of things. And it was good to see him find the back of the net and get that goal going there. But really, what a play by Elmer in the corner, using his size and strength to fight off a Wolves player, turn around, quick reaction to get that puck out front to Nate. Like, it was just a great play from Elmer.
Yeah, I mean, it's that night too, we saw Elmer up on the first line with Nate and Watson, and Elmer took full advantage of it over the weekend. I mean, he put up, the points are starting to accumulate for him, and so him just doing the dirty work, like we saw with Casper last year, doing the dirty work, and the points were going to start coming. And I think now, his work this season is starting to show, starting to pay off, because he's been leading the team in shots. He's been leading, he looks super good out there. So I'm that assist, getting over to Nate, he saw him over there. I don't know. I don't think they've played together a whole lot this season. I might be mistaken there, but
yeah, they have. That for a good chunk of the season, that second line was Nate, Austin Watson, and Elmer Soderblom. So it was good to see it kind of reunited.
Yeah, because it paid off huge.
And the thing I love the most about that line is Elmer clears space and can win those tough battles with his size. And then obviously Austin Watson out there just is like the police officer watching everything and making sure everyone stays in line when it comes to protecting Nate Danielson, which kind of allows him to go out there and play his game a little more carefree and not have to play in fear of what might be coming around the corner for him. So it's a great line. It's one of my favorite lines in this team outside of when we had the Amadeus Lombardi, Cross Hanas, and Alexander Doucette line when that was rolling. But this is easily one of my favorite lines of the team. So it's good to see that go in there. And yeah, I liked it.
I think this too, really puts Elmer in a better position than being on the third or the fourth line of checking too, because you like to see those hits from Elmer because of his size and his body, but he's not that type of player. And I feel like we kept trying to kind of push him into that spot, and he just wasn't gonna. He's just not that type of player. And we'll get into his goal here in a few minutes, but I think that's where he really needs to be, is that first or second line on that wing with whoever's centering. But I'm hoping we see more of this moving forward.
I agree. I think it was something that really kind of kick-started the action here and got the boys going. So I do like it. The next goal I want to talk about, obviously, Andre Becker's power play goal. This team was awful on the power play as of recently. I mean, our last episode was literally titled, "What's Wrong with the Griffins Power Play?" That's how bad it was. And for them to come out and go 2 for 3 in this game, I was like, this is awesome. But Becker really kicked it off here, which that's a new look, having him on the power play. And the other new look on the power play was 2 defensemen on each unit. Which is kind of something we had talked about maybe wanting to see during that episode too, is to see, hey, let's try this. You saw Rafferty join Shai Bouillon out there, which Rafferty's got a nice lethal shot from the face-off circle area, so that's kind of where he was playing. And then, you put Wallander and Tuomisto together, and that obviously usually creates magic too. But this Becker goal, man, he just kind of stays under the radar on the left side of the ice. And Dries does a great job finding him wide open in that spot, and Becker just rips it. He gets the puck and no hesitation, rips it right past the goalie. And I mean, yes, it's only his second goal of the season. He hasn't played that many games this season. Remember, he just signed his ELC with Detroit. But him producing immediately on the power play just made me go, yeah, he deserves a shot on this power play for the time being here, because it's just new energy that he brought to that line.
Yeah, you get somebody that's younger, that's not afraid to shoot, and I feel like that's part of our problem with the power play, is we're just kind of passing. I'm going to be a fan here. We need to shoot, and he just lets it rip, and I don't know, just so happy for the kid, because he just loves playing out there. You could tell with his big old smile after the goal. So love it for Becker, love it for the power play. Hopefully we continue to see this, that he's on out there for that power play unit.
Yes, and I also appreciate the Griffins giving me the correct pronunciation of his name instead of calling him Betcher this whole time. It is Becker, with a K. So now everybody knows that's the correct way to say it. But yeah, that was fun. Then the next power play goal, right? This is the one that was talked about all night long here. Elmer Soderblom. This goal is insane. He picks up the puck at the Griffins blue line and just outskates the entire Chicago defense and their penalty kill. He gets to the Chicago blue line, ends up meeting up with two players almost, and kind of it looks like he's going to drop the puck to Nate Danielson right next to him there, but I think he kind of whiffed on that and it ends up in his skates. He's able to kick it forward, goes to the slot, gets around one more guy, and just goes bar down and gets his 4th of the season. And again, Sebastian Kosa got the assist on this too, so that was pretty cool. But this Elmer goal, just when you look at it, it's a highlight reel goal. That's all it is. Yeah. It's a freaking beautiful goal.
This is why we drafted this player. Like, the silky mitts was right here. And it's like something that's been missing from Elmer the entire season. Like, we just don't see it a whole lot. And I think with the confidence of getting the assist and getting on the board and like getting the chemistry with Nate, and then he goes out there and he just pulls off this crazy move. And he even said he's like, I kind of kicked it up, like kind of missed and kicked it up to myself. And just, you and I both looked at each other. We're like, holy crap, after that goal. Like, we're not really supposed to talk up there, but we were just like, holy crap, that was sick. And, you know, right to the Twitter on it. But super happy for him because like, I feel like every time we talk about Albert getting a goal or getting a point, we're like, okay, they're going to start coming in bunches now. But I'm hoping here this is the seal that's broken now that we can let them all out.
Yeah, I mean, you hope to start seeing more consistent point production from him, but, you know, I'm not always looking for the goals from him. I'm okay with him lighting it up with assists and setting guys up too and being able to make those board battle plays like he did on Nate's goal. But yeah, just seeing him get points after going, I feel like it was like the first 20 games of the season, maybe with a point. It took him a while to get just that first point and that first goal. Now he's 6th on the team in scoring, 17 points in the 38 games, rocking a +4. You know, it's really starting to come together for him. And it's weird too, because it's at the same kind of time frame where there's a potential call up on the line with Tyler Mott's injury in Detroit, and all of a sudden you see some guys start to pop off, and you're like, oh, there's something a little more to play for than just the win here. But I know this team doesn't play with that mentality. They play for Grand Rapids, for the fans, for the city, for the team. And we'll talk more about that later because Coach Watson talked a lot about that on Saturday. But at the same time, man, this was just overall a good game. This was the bounce back they needed after that Manitoba series. Like, you can't come out of that and drop another game against Chicago. That would have been 4 straight games. That would have really sucked to be talking about that today. So I'm glad we're talking about a win. But any other final thoughts for the Wednesday game for you?
Not that I can think of. I'm just trying to look and see if there was anything else that kind of really stood out for me. Yeah, I think that was about it. You know, power play was a big thing, and it looked a little bit better. You know, I mean, we got some points out of the 3 that we had, and nice little bounce back win for the boys because I know we're first in the division, but I'm not happy with where we're sitting. I'm starting to sound like the Toledo fans.
Not happy with where they're sitting. Shut up.
Well, I think it's more like we'll keep going, and you'll see why.
Okay,
I'll wrap it back.
We'll wait for that moment. All of us will wait in suspense for that. So we'll move on to Friday's game, right? This kicks off the back-to-back at home against Cleveland. And if you remember, the Griffins had that 3-game set with Cleveland to kind of end 2024 and jump into 2025. They had the 2 games to end the year. And then the first game of the year for the Griffins was in Cleveland. The first 2 games to end the year there combined for 10 goals. You get to that 3rd game. It's a 1-0 shutout win for Billy Husso. And you're like, all right, what's this game going to be? Is Cleveland going to come back with a vengeance? And this game, the title of this one could be Griffins Hold the Lead Challenge. Like, that's exactly what this one could be called. This game was so frustrating. The Grand Rapids Griffins dropped this one in a shootout to Cleveland 5-4. And when I say it's frustrating, yes, they took away a point, which is great. But when I walk you through how the scoring went in this one, you're going to see why this was frustrating. So the scoring goes as followed. 12 minutes and 5 seconds into the game, Tim Gettinger gets his 2nd of the season from Alexander Doucette. A great board battle by Doucette in the corner to find Gettinger out front after winning that board battle. And, you know, the rest is history. Gettinger gets the goal. Griffins are off to a great start. At the 15-minute mark of the period, Alexander Doucette gets his 5th goal of the season from Nate Danielson and Shai Buium on the power play, which again, great to see the power play still rolling. Loved that. Deuce getting a look on the power play in this game. Loved that. That was a nice change there. 23 seconds into the second period, Sheldon Dries adds his 13th of the season from Dominic Shine. Griffins have a 3-0 lead. Oh, I forgot to mention, in the first period, Grand Rapids outshot Cleveland 26-7.
Stop the count right here. That's it.
26 shots on goal in one period, and we lost this game. Yep, that's, again, we'll get there. Probably 40 seconds after Dries gets the Griffins up 3-0, Dylan Gambrell for Cleveland adds his 6th of the season from Trey Fix-Wolansky and Gavin Brindley. And then 45 seconds later, Roman Ashan adds his 8th of the season from Damian Hunt, short-handed. This one stung. And now Griffins are, one goal away from having a tie game here if they give up one more. But, a couple minutes later, Austin Watson adds his 11th of the season from Shai Buium and Elmer Soderblom on the power play. Hey, look at that. 2 power play goals in a game. Again, love to see it. And action kind of gets stagnant there for about 10, 12 minutes. Then Trey Fix-Wolansky on the power play adds his 15th of the season. I knew I'd end up saying his name on this show today. If you've listened to the show for a long time, he's a Griffin killer. Trey Fix-Wolansky's an incredible player, but he takes it to another level when he plays the Grand Rapids Griffins. It's insane. In that first season we covered this team, every time they played each other, I was saying his name constantly on the show. And for the most part, this season, it's been pretty quiet. I knew that wasn't going to last forever, though. But that wasn't it for the second period there. Dylan Gambrell does tie the game at the end of the second period here. His 2nd of the night, 7th of the season from Gavin Brindley. And you're going into third period tied when you started the third period 23 seconds in, up 3-0. Talk about deflating. Like, this was, I think all of us up in press row just couldn't believe what we were watching. Like, how is this game tied at this point?
I mean, kinda. I mean, at the second period, third period, I was like, we're going to lose this game, Brandon. And you're like, shut up. I was like,
yeah, literally told you to shut up.
I'm like, we're going to lose this. I know. I see where this is going. This is a typical Cleveland game against us, just like last year.
Yeah, I'll get there. Again, tied 4-4 after the 2 periods here. Third period comes around. It's a tight period. Both teams played defensively well. 8 shots to 8 shots in this one. We go to overtime. Overtime, pretty well played by both teams. Actually, kind of think Griffins had the advantage in this one, even though they didn't register a shot and goal. Their time of possession was a lot higher. Cleveland kind of came out and got their first 2 shots pretty quick in this, and then the Grand Rapids Griffins took over. But no goal in that. We get to the shootout. Joe Snively goes first for the Griffins. No goal. Trey Fix-Wolansky goes. No goal. Nate Danielson goes. No goal. Rocco Grimaldi goes. No goal. Elmer Soderblom. No goal. Gavin Brindley. No goal. Austin Watson. No goal. Cameron Butler. Goal. Game over. Griffins lose. What an interesting shootout lineup there chosen by the coaching staff. I want to talk about that here in a minute more, but the best way to describe this game is you saw a tale of 3 teams. The Grand Rapids Griffins came out and they played lights out in that first period. One of the best periods of hockey we may have seen them play this entire season.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Second period, a team full of mistakes. 3 awful turnovers resulting in 3 of those goals. One of those, Gabriel Seeger whiffs on clearing the puck at the blue line. Cleveland just walks in and scores. Gambrell's goals are identical in the way they were scored. They were identical, which is absolutely crazy to me. Third period, you saw just a defensive battle. A very defensive team, a safe team. They were playing safe.
Yep.
And then overtime in the shootout happened. So, yeah, Griffins dropped this one. Outshoot Cleveland 44-26. Go 2 for 5 on the power play. Go 2 for 3 on the penalty kill. And we went into post game going, this is not going to be fun. I have a feeling this is not going to be fun. And we spoke to 3 different people in that post game. We spoke to Coach Watson, clearly frustrated, but optimistic and excited that they were playing the Cleveland Monsters again Saturday. Spoke to Alexander Doucette. He's fun to talk to. He's always fun to talk to. Obviously disappointed in that loss, but he had himself a great game, a 2-point game for him with a goal and an assist. His assist again was fantastic. His goal, great, batted it out of midair. Like this, it was a fantastic one. I saw somebody, and I have not been able to find the clip yet. Somebody in the Toledo hockey fan page has said that his goal was on SportsCenter's top 10 the next day.
Oh,
I can't find it, so if someone in the comments can confirm where we can find that, let us know, because I'd love to see that. And I don't think anybody on the team realized it, because I've heard nothing about it. So if we could find that, I'd love to share that with them. So yeah. But then we talk to Austin Watson. And this is why we love Austin Watson on this team. Because one, his post-game interviews are all time. He doesn't mince his words at all. He doesn't hold back. He gives it how it is. And he was frustrated. And when asked if he, if this was one of those losses you kind of want to burn the tape and forget about, his response is, I hope it effing hurts. I hope it stings. And I loved that answer. I hated the answer because I knew at that point he was done talking and I didn't get to ask a question yet. But at the same time, I loved that answer. All of his answers in that postgame just show why he's such a key part of that locker room and why he's a leader on this team, even though he doesn't wear a letter. He speaks his mind. He holds players accountable in the right way and holds the team accountable in the right way too. And if you're a fan of this team and you were disappointed by that loss and you go into that postgame and you hear that, you're instantly fired up for what the next night's going to bring, because you know you've got a guy like that that's going to be in that locker room. And after the game and before the game the next night, just kind of going at it and getting the boys ready to go. But that was an experience for us. That's the first time we've had a post game be that kind of a frustrating. We've had some frustrating losses, let's be real. But, the optimism from the coach in that one, the frustration from one of the guys, you're like, ooh, Saturday's going to be fun.
I mean, when Coach Watson said, I'm glad that we're going to play them again tomorrow, it just gave me flashbacks from last weekend of the game against Manitoba, we lose, and then he goes, I'm excited to play it tomorrow. And me and Brandon both, we both looked at each other like, oh, tomorrow's going to be good. Saturday's going to be good. And then we lose. And I'm like, what? It wasn't there. And I was going to call it, I wish I was in press Saturday. If they would have lost, I would have called them out for it. I would have been like,
2 weekends in a row you say this,
yeah. And then
I knew it wasn't going to happen back-to-back weekends. There was no way.
But the Moose are not that great. Those games are tight against us. They play a very good defensive game. Cleveland though is a good team. We do really those games are always very interesting with us. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, I don't know if I would have said that, Coach. I know this one hurts. You guys, they came out buzzing. There was a ton of energy Friday night. There was no. It didn't look like they dropped off at all from the Chicago game to this game. They picked up, they were ready to go. 26 shots in the first period. I'm like, let's freaking go, baby. We've got this game in the books now. And the second is just like you said, the turnovers killed us. And it was just like, what are we doing? We built this such big lead. We've got the 3 goals, a big lead, yeah. And we're out shooting them, we're outplaying them. We had more shots in the first 2 periods than they had the entire, what was it? The first period than they had the first 2 periods. We were controlling that entire game at that point. And I'm just like, what are we doing? It was so frustrating to see them play so well that first period. And then everybody just kind of forgot how to play the game plan. It's basically what they said in post game, is they just kind of threw it out of the books. Just frustrating because those are 2 points that we needed. I don't care. We need as many points as we could get. And to come out like that, set the tone, but not follow through. The way I felt about that game was how I felt last night after the Lions lost. If you would have switched the Friday game to Saturday game, you'd probably not have seen me today. I would have been just crying all day. I'm like, we gotta cancel. Brandon, we'll just do this on Wednesday. We need some time. We need to recover.
need time to grieve.
Yeah. But even the power play looked fantastic. I want to just talk about the power play real quick. The power play was freaking fantastic. One thing that I noticed on this is we've been calling it out. We want to see more goals. We want to see just more consistency on this. And the power play looked different Friday than I had looked in the past. And it clicked finally what had happened. I noticed that they were cycling the puck. They were moving as well. A lot of times we catch them just standing there, pass, pass, pass. Maybe it's a little move here or there, but they're not cycling. They're not moving. And I think that has helped them be able to do as well as they'd have in the power play on Friday night compared to what they've done in the past, is just being able to move. It looked a lot like Detroit's power play at one point. I'm like, wow,
It really did.
I've seen this before. Where have I seen this? Oh yeah, I've seen this with Larkin and them running the same system, the same play. So, hoping that there's more success here, and it's going to open up more opportunities for them. And the other thing that I want to point out on this weekend we saw way more action from the defense. The defense had more points. They're shooting. They're getting the assists. Like, typically what we've been seeing is just the wingers, the forwards are all getting the points and the assists. But you saw the defense pick up quite huge in getting these points on the power play and overall. So,
yeah, I think the defense kind of did, like you said, stepped up and was huge. In Friday's game, before we get to Saturday's game, Friday's game, Shai Bouillon, 2 assists, one of maybe his best game. Like, he was the best skater on the ice that night. Like, he looked incredible.
I really
all night long. We'll talk about him more later in the episode here, but he looked fantastic. It's just those turnovers, man. Those turnovers killed us. Like we said, Seager whiffing on that clear and just allowing Cleveland to pick it up and go. And then the shorthanded goal was William Wallander failing to hold the puck at the blue line, which I want to talk about that more later too. But then Cleveland just goes the other way and scores. And then the Trey Fix-Lansky goal, again, 2 Griffins collide with a monster. Well, they have control of the puck. The puck gets away from them. Fix-Lansky picks it up, skates around and in and rips it. And God, his shot, like that shot, I couldn't even be mad because the shot was so good. But at the same time, I was furious because of this is where we ended up in the game at this point. They're 1 goal away from tying it at that point in time. And again, like I said, Gambrell's goals were freaking identical. Cross crease pass, boom, goal. Like, it was frustrating.
The shorty is what killed us. As soon as we gave up the shorty, it was over. Like,
momentum was gone.
Point, yeah, it was gone. And it sucks too because the fans were in it. Like, it wasn't even like it was a loud fan base. It wasn't all Jared Goff chants. Like, we were like, the team was in it. Like, the fans were in it. The team was in it until they weren't.
They were out of it basically halfway through the second. Let's be real. Let's be real. Well, not even halfway through the second. It was really quickly in the second because those goals were 1 minute 19 seconds in and 2 minutes and 49 seconds in. Yeah. It's the second period was awful, and yeah. But I want to dive into at least the goals that were scored in that game and kind of just talk about how those went. But before we do that, we'll hit an ad break here. So we'll send it over to the sponsors, and when we come back, we'll dive into the goals and then recap Saturday's game. The 24-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And welcome back. All right, let's dive into these Griffins goals at least. We've talked enough about Cleveland's goals they scored in this game on Friday. I want to talk about the Griffins goals because some of these goals there's a lot of positives with, right? We mentioned Gettinger's goal, his second of the season. He's only played 19 games. That was his 19th game of the season. Remember, he missed a bunch of this early part of the season with injury after getting surgery in the offseason. So seeing him find the back of the net, one against Cleveland, where he's from, is always fun. He likes scoring against the Cleveland Monsters. But the storyline of this goal, not just Tim Gettinger being open in the slot, was Alexander Doucette chasing this puck into the corner, fighting off one guy, stripping the puck from another guy, and then finding Gettinger open in the slot to bury it. Like, if you've listened to the show long enough, you remember our interview with Brandon Hawkins, and we talked about Alexander Doucette, his first season in Toledo. And he said he was one of the toughest guys to play against in the corner. And we saw it come to fruition right in front of us that night. Like, this was what Alexander Doucette's draft profile would look like if he was drafted. He wasn't drafted. He was just a contract signing that Detroit took on after he tore it up in the Western League. But at the same time, this is the Deuce that we've wanted to see. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. And then you go right after that, since I'm talking about Deuce, his goal here, he just goes to the net on the power play. They crash the net, exactly what we were looking for in the power play. The rebound pops up in the air, and Deuce just takes a swing at it and bats it in out of midair and gets his, fifth goal of the season. Like, at that point in time, it was the Alexander Doucette show early or midway through the first there. He was having a blast out there, and he was flying. And his look on the power play, seeing him actually go out there, I like him on the power play because he's aggressive. He was playing the Toledo style aggression on the power play that he's very used to doing. He spent a lot of time on Toledo's power play. And just seeing him go out there and deliver in this night, which we said, I don't know if it was on air or off air, ever since that, Ammo's injury, where they had that line with him and Cross buzzing, Deuce hasn't really found his place back in the lineup yet. Well, he gets a lot more opportunity in this game this night and delivers.
Yeah, I mean, give the kids a chance. I think that's probably the theme on the power play that over this week is just you put them on there. Shai rewards you, Doucette rewards you, Becker rewards. Like, I mean, it's huge for everybody, and it's just going to give them confidence going because these guys are going to move up in the lineup, or you're going to have the next man up, based off of potential injuries in the future. So it's good to see these guys going, and it's stringing some games together. Now we just hope to see it a little bit more, to keep that momentum going with them.
Yeah, I mean, Doucette's a guy I'd like to see get to escape that, third and fourth line territory. I'd like to see him play some second line minutes for a few games and see what he can do. Because when he's given the opportunities this season, he's capitalized almost every single time. And then he finds his way back down to the third and fourth line just because that's the way the lineup works. I mean, the Griffins' top six is pretty stacked. Let's be real. That's even without a Carter Mazer and Amadeus Lombardi. And then they come back and he gets buried even further. But at the same time, like, if I'm thinking, when those guys are all back, a first line of Austin Watson, Carter Mazer, and Nate Danielson, and a second line of Amadeus Lombardi and Alexander Doucette and Joe Snively or Cross Hanas or Sheldon Dries, whatever one you throw in there. And then a third line of, just do the Dries, Snively, Shine line as your third line. That's three really, really good lines with good depth pieces on the fourth line, like Andre Becker, Jacob Rakowski, Hunter Johannes. I'm sure when Mazer's back, we might see Gabriel Seeger probably end up back in Toledo. I think that's probably the most likely scenario here at this point, but we'll talk about that more later. But at the same time, like, the Griffins, when they're fully back healthy, can really put a great line together. That's without me even mentioning where do you put Tim Gettinger in that situation too, because he's starting to produce more and more, and you got to find a spot for him there. So, yeah, man, like, I just want to see Deuce get more chances because he's delivered on all of them.
Yeah, and I mean, this is his first full season up here, isn't it?
Yeah. He bounced back and forth between Toledo and Grand Rapids last season. Didn't really get many looks up here. Spent the majority of the time in Toledo. Tore it up in Toledo. So, yeah, man. I don't know. I just want to see him get more chances. Anyways, moving on from that, Sheldon Dries' goal, bad play by Jet Greaves. If your goaltender, 10 the goal.
It's a beautiful play by Jet Greaves.
Exactly. Jet Greaves picks up the puck instead of just letting it go to the boards, tries to make the backwards pass around, no monsters there. And in that point, you had Dominic Shine pick it up, find Dries in the front. He like, the puck kind of gets away from him, and he still is able to, kind of pick it up and get it in his skates and get it to his stick and just backhand it into a wide open net. So thanks, Jet Greaves, for the assist on that one there. Austin Watson's goal, it's just kind of one of those tip-in situations with this one. Shai Bouillon absolutely blasts this one, and, you're able to get that tip there, and everything's good to go. So, again, good to see Austin Watson scoring again. That's something we haven't seen too much of as late. His scoring has kind of calmed down a little bit. Assist-wise, he's still doing well, but the scoring has kind of quieted down. He's spending more time hitting people and creating space for everybody else, and that's perfectly fine. I love what he's doing that, too. But those are the goals in that game there. The highlight of this game is going to be the post-game interviews for us. Honestly, they were. I haven't talked to Doucette all season really, and I love talking to him. Even after a bad loss like that, he still seemed pretty positive because I know he went out there and had a good game. He did everything he could in that game to do well. It's kind of like we talked about afterwards when we were leaving the arena. We're like, we should probably stop calling on the guys who have 2 3-point games and a loss and call on some leadership guys to talk to after this. And that was our plan Saturday if it went south. But was fun talking to Deuce. Austin Watson's interview is just an all-timer for us with the frustrations that he was showing. Like, you don't see guys show that a lot until things go south, but Waddy will show that anytime he's frustrated, but he also is able to still speak positively on what he wants to see the team do, and just is a true leader. So love that. That's all I've got for Friday's game outside of just disappointment and sadness for that one. Because I really thought after the way that first period went, we were going to walk out of there with a big win against Cleveland again, like another 5-1 game, and just be like, God, Cleveland's got to hate playing this team at this point.
Yeah. I mean, the first period was fantastic.
It was so much fun.
They got to play those 20 minutes, a full 60 against everybody, not just Cleveland. Like they need to play it against Manitoba. They need to play it against, because we play Manitoba the next couple games, I believe.
Next 2 games. Yeah, we play them Thursday and I think Saturday or Friday. I'll double check the schedule before we get to the end of the episode here. But I'm
Manitoba the next 2 games, at Manitoba, and then Rockford.
Yeah, let me be clear with this. Based on Coach Watson's post-game interview on Saturday night, he made it very clear. The Griffins have not forgotten how those 2 games went against Manitoba as they head out to Manitoba. There's clearly a chip on their shoulder to come out there and wreak some havoc after those 2 games. So I'm looking forward to that. But let's move into Saturday's game here. You know, again, Coach said he was excited to play the Monsters again. Watson has that frustration. You're kind of wondering what to expect in this one. The Griffins come out of this with a big, massive 4-2 win. A great bounce back from the team. Let me run you through the goals real quick and we'll talk about the game. Cleveland starts off the scoring in this one, actually. 5 minutes, 18 seconds in. Kazanko, I'm going to butcher that name. He got his first goal of the season from Rocco Grimaldi and Justin Pearson. But the Griffins are able to tie this game before the end of the first period here. 10 minutes in, Sheldon Dries gets his 14th of the season from Dominic Shine and Antti Tuomisto. Griffins come out of the first, tied at 1 with Cleveland, getting outshot at that point 11-9. A very different look than the first night, right? We didn't outscore them, we didn't outshoot them, we didn't outplay them, but I think they had more pep in their step still, kind of like they did in the first period, but Cleveland definitely played a safer game in the first in this one. I don't think they would have liked to have to go to the locker room after giving up another 26 shots in the first. I'm pretty sure that wasn't a fun experience for them. You go into the second period here, 2 minutes, 9 seconds in. Who else against Cleveland but Tim Gettinger? Goals in back-to-back nights, gets his 3rd of the season from Gabriel Seeger and Alexander Doucette. And then the Griffins add 1 more in the second period as well. Dominic Shine gets his 11th of the season from Antti Tuomisto. Griffins go out of this period with a 3-1 lead. We're feeling a little better than Friday night. We're feeling good at this point. The vibes are good, but the nerves are there because you know what happened the night before. Go to the third period, 13 minutes, 45 seconds in. Hunter McCown gets his 4th of the season to get Cleveland back within 1. Roman Ashan and McHugh assist on that one. No other action until Jet Greaves vacates the crease. The net's empty. Austin Watson goes for the long shot from the Griffins' blue line. Looks like it's going a little wide, but Elmer Soderblom hustles down the ice, beats the Cleveland defender, bats the puck in the net, gets his 5th of the season. The Griffins walk away with this 4-2 win, outshooting Cleveland 29-26 in this game. Power play quiet in this game, but they only had 1 opportunity. They go 0-1, but the penalty kill was a perfect 2-2. The refs kind of let the guys play in this one. There was some moments where things got a little testy, and you're like, what's going to happen in this? And there's an important note that we learned going into Friday's game when it comes to Austin Watson. He's had 9 fighting majors this season, and in the AHL, your 10th one earns you a 1-game suspension. And we looked at the lineup. Our friend Elaine Shercliffe, who also covers the Cleveland Monsters, was in town for these 2 games, and I was sitting next to her for Saturday's game, and we were talking about this whole Austin Watson possible suspension after the next fight thing, and we looked at the starting lineup. Cleveland's big guns on the ice, Austin Watson's on the ice, and we both go, they're going. First, they're going to go right away. But Dan Watson made it pretty clear that they will be strategic about when that fight happens again, unless something crazy happens. I think they kind of reined him in on fighting for the moment, but that didn't stop Austin Watson from being an absolute menace on the ice. He had probably 5 or 6 massive hits in this game, including throwing Trey Fix-Wolansky over the boards into the Griffins bench, which for us was the highlight of the game. I absolutely loved it. And I forgot to mention in Friday's game, Sheldon Dries threw a guy over the Cleveland bench. That's like the third or fourth time the Griffins have thrown a Monsters player over the boards for the hit. Josiah Didier did it once. One happened in Cleveland. I don't remember who it was. And then it happened twice this weekend in 2 separate games. I asked Dominic Shine after this game in his post-game interview, I was like, what is it about this team that you guys just love throwing them over the boards? And he instantly chuckled. And he's like, I don't know, but Waddy launched that guy. And yes, Austin Watson launched Trey Fix-Lansky into the Griffins bench there, and the crowd went nuts.
It's pretty easy. The guy's pretty tiny.
He is pretty short. Yeah. You don't have the height leverage to force him over, though. So you have to launch him. Like, you actually have to physically launch him. But outside of that, man, I want your overall thoughts, because you were a fan at this game. Your family came to town. You had the fan experience with this night. Just what was it like being in the crowd, especially at the same time the Lions game's going on? The vibes early on were, they were good. The Lions score, the Jared Goff chance started immediately. That's the only time that a lot of people will say those are a valid time to do it, is right after they score. But the vibes were just kind of fun in the arena. The jerseys, the Dino jerseys, looked absolutely elite on the ice. The whole kit together looked so good. I love the jersey numbers. They were supposed to glow in the dark too, but the lighting in the arena didn't really allow you to see that. But the jersey numbers popped so much from the press box. I loved the design of them. But overall, seeing the jerseys up close in person in the room, they were so well done for a second round of doing a Jurassic Park jersey. But the fan experience for you, man, what was it like?
It was crazy. There was a ton of people out here for this game, and I was kind of surprised with the Lions doing so well this season. I figured a lot of people bought the tickets and then they were going to cancel to go out to the bars to watch the Lions, but it was packed, and there was a lot of let's go Griffins. There was a lot of those chants. When the Lions did score, they had it on the arena, they had it on the in the suites, and then they had it on the concourse too after the game. And we were looking back to just get updates from the guys that were behind us in the suites, and they were like, Jared, they were yelling. So they were like, okay, here we are, we're winning. So for me, the game was there was so much going on my end because I had the whole family in. So but the jerseys looked fantastic. I wasn't able to catch a whole lot of the game because I was taking kids to the bathroom. I was coming back. We're getting them snacks. So it was a lot of juggling for Uncle Nick for this weekend. So, but a lot of the goals, it looked like Jet had them, and then they just kind of slipped through. He just wasn't very confident on these goals that night. But not a whole lot of penalties, which was kind of different from the night prior because there was a lot of penalty minutes. And I don't know. It was good vibes up until, it was good vibes for the whole game.
Yeah, because the Lions didn't lose till after the game, so the vibes were good up until the Lions lost. But
I mean, I was checking the stats too, but I felt maybe the crowd was a little nervous on that side. Maybe they were a little distracted on the Lions because the Lions didn't play good the first half. So
because when I went down to the room for post game, they were down by 2 scores, and I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So there was some definite nerves out there, but it's funny that you bring up, it looked like Jet Greaves had a couple goals there. Do you know how much I had to resist all night when I was running our social pages to say he needed to close his legs?
Yeah, because that's 2 of them
resisted hardcore. Yeah, 2 of them. I think Dries' goal and Gettinger's goal. They were all just ones that trickled past him there, and you're just like, man, that's he's got to close that 5-hole because it was loose that night. It was loose. And that's really what cost Cleveland this game. Let's be real. Jet did not have a good game, which, talking to Elaine, it's really weird that they went back to Jet Greaves in this game. The Monsters coach likes to do the alternate goalie thing just like we do here in Grand Rapids. So it was weird to see them go with Jet instead of Sawchenko, but Sawchenko also got destroyed the last time the Griffins played them in Grand Rapids. So maybe there was just maybe that's a reason, just the mental game they didn't want to put him out there for. But yeah, Jet cost Cleveland this game, 100%. But also the Griffins did just kind of outwill them. The physicality in this game was up. Everybody was throwing hits. It wasn't just Austin Watson out there. Sheldon Dries threw a great hit by the Griffins bench when he didn't have a stick in his hand because his stick broke. He goes to the bench to get his stick, throws the body at that point, picks up his stick, and then goes the other way and gets that goal. That all happened in that same sequence there. He picks up the stick and goes. He's getting hauled down, too, as he's going to score that goal. I think it would have been a penalty shot, honestly, if Jet stopped it.
Yeah.
But it somehow trickled past him. and I won't ask how. I just like that it went in, and it makes a fun highlight seeing from hit to breakaway to takedown to goal. Like it was just a good one. But yeah, man, vibes were good on this one. The boys in the locker room afterwards, all like you could tell there was some relief in the way they played. They were proud of the way they played. They were proud of the way they bounced back. Coach Watson was very happy with how his team and the leadership in this locker room responded and went out there and played their game for the full 60 minutes. And I asked him after the game, how do you copy and paste this and carry forward without having these little lapses like we've had? And, he brought up, it's one of the hardest things to do to go play a full 60-minute game like that. You always can't play the way that you want to play. And Friday's game was kind of a perfect example of that. But he's confident in the players that he has on this team in this room, that they're bought in. And as he mentioned multiple times throughout the day Saturday, the boys love playing for this team. They love playing for the city and the fans and just being a Griffin. And he wanted to make that very clear Saturday, that everyone on this team is very focused on being a Griffin. They're not focused on, am I going to get called up to Detroit? What's going on with this? Where am I going next? No one's thinking about that in that room right now. They are 100% dialed in to being a Griffin and going and doing something special this season, which I like to hear that from Coach Watson. He's big on, playing at home, defending home ice, and to hear him re-echo that after a rough game Friday and a good game Saturday, it was nice to hear.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that was kind of to try to cover for Austin Watson the night prior, of like try to get out of this team, try to get out of this league, try to move up like this.
I mean, yeah, he brought that up, but here's the thing is, Watson, again, super frustrated Friday. He talked, the AHL is a selfish league. And he said those words exactly, everybody is this close to making it to the NHL. And a lot of guys in this league can be very selfish about that. And based on his talks and the way that this team is, how tight knit they are, I don't think a single player in that locker room plays like that for themselves. They're not playing to get that next shot. Of course, they're all trying to play the best they can to get that opportunity, right? They want to be the best player possible, but they're not doing that just to get that call to Detroit. They're doing that to go out there and deliver elite results for the fans. And that's what I love, because you do watch other teams and you're like, well, yeah, this prospect is just out here doing everything by himself, trying to show what he can do. And let's be real. I mean, if Nate Danielson wanted to, he could go out there and take over this game and try to do everything himself and try to make himself look like the best player in the world. He doesn't have to. And that's what I love about this team and this organization. If you think about it up and down from Toledo to Detroit, selfishness is not an option if you play for this organization.
Yeah, I don't know. They're all laying it out there. I could tell. You could see that. Like Hunter Johannes, you don't see players being frustrated about being in and out of the lineup. Hunter Johannes specifically, but you could see like in the face, like post game is not fun when they lose. You could tell the vibes in the locker room are terrible. They're bad. Like it's very. Like, we're not excited to be in there. But when they win, you got the music blaring, everybody's pumped, everybody's yelling, everybody's running around. Like, it's a good time when we're winning. And, like, it just comes from the team. And, like, you don't see players taking over games of just, like, being selfish and just trying to, like, get that win. Like, we saw it. I feel like I saw it a few times from just a few of the players last year. But this year, you don't see like somebody coming in and just really trying to take over, which is good. Sometimes we do need that, though. You do need a little bit of selfish play of like, you need to shoot more. You need to, than giving it up and going for the assist. And like our first season covering this team, all they were doing was passing. And you could tell where they were passing. Nobody wanted to shoot. So, I mean, you got to have that balance where they're shooting and they're passing, and you got to be a little bit selfish at some points in time, and not give up the play, But they're laying it out there. You don't see the too selfishness. I should say. No,
and when you say like they can be selfish, yeah, for sure. Like if there's an opportunity, you need to take it. But at the same time, there's such a cohesive unit on the ice that it you can just tell that they want, like, if they are taking that shot for themselves and maybe there's another guy open, they truly thought that was the best option at that time when they took that shot. And like you said, yeah, thinking back to last season, I could think of a couple, and those couple aren't on this team this year. Like, right. That's the thing. Right. Those guys they're not here anymore. So it's, I don't know, just hearing all of that over this weekend, because You could take what Austin Watson said Friday, and if we were the Toronto media, you could take a 2-second clip of that and run with it and say that there's a problem in that. There's not a problem in that room. That room is so freaking tight. All those guys just have so much respect for each other. They're all brothers in that room. And, even I attended Winged Wheel Podcast's live event they did because they were in town this weekend for that as well. Congrats to them. Another massive, successful event for them. And Amadeus Lombardi was up there for his live interview, and he was talking about, when you're not getting to play the game you love, be around the boys, you do feel removed from it. But he brought up a point of making sure to say, there's so many guys in this team that do everything they can to keep him involved, even when he's not there, not in the room, not on the ice. And that's something you also love to hear, because a guy gets injured and they're just like, oh, you're not playing. We're just going to keep doing our thing and ignore you. But no, they're still talking to him, keeping him involved and all that stuff. And that's so positive when you're talking about a team that you hope can go out here and win a championship because they have the right people to do it. But you've got to be that tight brotherhood to go out there and accomplish something like that. And again, I just feel like this team is. So that's all I've got for the weekend games, though. Again, 3 of the possible 4 points out of the weekend, even with a massively frustrating loss on Friday, is still a really positive weekend. Griffins are still first in the Central Division, but there was a question asked in post-game as well. This is at the same time of year last year, the Grand Rapids Griffins went on a crazy run, but they weren't in the top of the division when they went on that run. And I think all 3 people in the post-game Saturday were asked, is that same sense of urgency still here with the team that they had last year? And everyone's response, which I loved, was, no, there's more urgency because we want to peel away from everybody. Like, we want to continue this. There's no taking our foot off the gas, because we know, being at the top every night now, instead of facing teams that look at us and go, oh, they're at the bottom of the division, they're not going to play their best. Every team's going to come in here and play their best. So now they have to take it up another notch every single game. And we're seeing that too. A lot of teams come in here and play their best hockey. Manitoba that weekend, for example, played their best hockey. We played our worst. This weekend, Cleveland came in and played their best hockey. We played all right, and then we played really good hockey. So hearing that urgency is still there, again, another positive thing.
I'm glad it got asked, because I wanted to ask Friday, but I couldn't figure out the way to word it, because it
wasn't the time for it.
Yeah, especially after a loss. Like, you try to keep it short. They don't want to be in front of us, like, taking the hard questions. And it was just like last year they went on this string of games, and it was something that we talked about. I think it was like they went like 20 games in a row with like getting points, and it was just like the team. You could really tell the team was coming together at this time last year, right after Christmas. Like, it was starting to gel, and now it's just been, in Austin Watson's words, meh. They've been playing meh hockey, like just mid, and it's just like, when are we gonna see this team really like gel and take off of like going on these big streaks, or going on like stringing together quite a few wins in a row? And we haven't. I feel like I haven't seen that yet. That's why I'm like, we're at the top of the division, right? You can't be angry or upset or sad about that,
No.
because we're at the top. There's only 3 points, I believe, separating us right now from Texas and us.
Yep, and as of recording, they actually just lost their game tonight against Milwaukee 4-0. So
we're
thanks,
still up
Milwaukee.
3.
That's one thing you've done for us.
So we're still up 3, but it's like this division is so close. It's so tight. I mean, any weekend it could pivot and somebody else could overtake us. And I just don't feel like the style of hockey we're playing is up to that point. Like, it's getting there. It's just not consistent enough. That's probably the best way for me to word that, because like we've seen it in stretches, just like Cleveland on Saturday or Friday, 20 shots in the first period. We've got our defensemen really stepping up over the last 3 games, getting assists, getting points, getting on the board. And that's what I love to see. That I called that out last time we recorded, and you didn't really see that before. You saw our power play running like crazy the other night, and then they kind of fell off the second and third period. So it's just trying to get more consistency. It's hard. It's a long season, and you've got people coming in and out of the lineup. So chemistry is always going to be affected, and you got injuries. But hopefully, with Amo and Carter coming back, Carter sooner, we start seeing maybe a lift here when he's coming in. Maybe that's the launching pad. I don't know.
Yeah, I asked Coach Watson, what does that mean to the lineup for Carter Mazur coming back? And it's a huge boost. He's had a lot of success in this league, and he's a great player, and he can really change the game. And when we saw him come back from injury last season after he got settled in finally, he tore it up. And you think of like his playoff performance and stuff like that. But even he framed it kind of how Travis and you guys have been framing it all season long now since they've been injured, is like a trade deadline acquisition, and he framed it kind of as that, we're getting guys back at key points in the season when we're going to need them. We're thinking about Amadeus Lombardi when he comes back later on here. But these are, it's good boosts at times where you need it the most. So that is exciting to see him come back. I don't know what this lineup's going to look like then. I really wanted Travis to be here for that because he's more good at analyzing the coaching side of things than the two of us are. I don't know who's going to get sent down. I know Toledo wants reinforcements. They're up and down right now with how their performance has been. But I couldn't tell you, based on how guys have been playing recently, who that guy is going to be that gets sent down. Because like I said, you assume the obvious is Gabriel Seeger. But he's outside of his whiff Friday night. And who knows, that whiff right there might be enough to say, yeah, you're going down to Toledo. I thought that whiff almost was going to be enough to say you're not going to be in the lineup Saturday night. And there he was.
He got an assist Saturday night too.
And then he got an assist, and it was a nice assist. But at the same time, like, I can't tell you who it's going to be. Andre Becker has earned a spot on this roster, especially seeing what he's able to do on the power play now. Gabriel Seeger is playing well. Doucette's never going back down. Let's be real. Hunter Johannes maybe goes back down, but again, I really liked his game Saturday night. I thought he's been moving the puck very well since he's come back from Toledo. He's still playing with the physical edge that he has, but his puck movement has been fantastic on the fourth line there since he's come back. So I don't know who it's going to be.
Well, I could tell you two things. So based on previous lineups against Manitoba, I would bet we probably aren't going 11-7 when Carter comes back.
I would agree with that.
And on top of that, we might not have to make a decision on who goes down, because if Tyler Mott's still out for an extended enough time, maybe they
That's
call
true.
somebody up, and that way it frees the size. So maybe like we don't actually have to make the decision because the decision will be made for us.
That would be nice to not have to worry about it. And I mean, if you look at it too, I mean, the Wings get smoked last night against Tampa. They're currently down 3-0 to Dallas. Maybe, and Todd McClellan did hint that there is potential for a call up. So I don't know. Maybe that does answer the question for us. Who's the call up? I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be kind of a wait and see thing. But outside of the games and stuff, there was a couple of guys we wanted to talk about with this weekend, right? We talked a lot about Doucette already and what he was able to do this weekend. But I want to talk something on the negative side before we get to the positive. And I mentioned it in one of the turnovers in the Cleveland game Friday. I'm getting worried about William Vollander.
Yeah.
He can't keep the puck in at the blue line right now to save his life. Like, the two defensemen deployed on the power play has kind of bailed him out over the past couple of games. But I say that, and it was a power play that he turned the puck over at the blue line there because it bounced over his stick or whatever happened. And it resulted in that shorthanded goal that really changed the momentum of the game. But I've noticed it probably now for the past month that on the power play, he was struggling to hold that in there. And then you kind of saw, that's where you saw Shai Buyam get deployed onto the power play. Been fantastic on the power play. Been great. Tuomisto took over that second unit. And there was a couple of games where I didn't see Wallander touch the power play. And you look at the start of the season, and he was piggybacking the first power play unit. I have reason to be concerned with his play, because if you asked me right now, outside of a veteran player like William Lagesson, who's still with Detroit, who would be your call up on defense? And the resounding answer is Shai Buyam.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He has developed so well and so fast this season.
I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise because he's already familiar with North American ice. So we didn't have to wait, because typically our defensemen are coming over from Sweden or international, and they're trying to learn the size, the space, the speed over here. But Shai went through college, so he's already been acclimated to that size, the speed, not the size and speed, but more of the ice and the amount of space he was going to have. He just had to get acclimated to the speed of the game up here and the physicality. Going into the season, our big guys like Ballander and Tuo were supposed to make that next jump this year.
And
of
2-0
what-
has. 2-0 has been great this season, in my opinion. And statistically, too. He's 7th on the team in scoring as a defenseman right now.
goals or assists?
Overall, he's got 16 points at 7th on the team. He's got 2 goals, 14 assists. He's a -2. That's over 33 games. Shai Buium, 34 games played, no goals, 13 assists, +7. William Wallander, 28 games, 1 goal, 8 assists for 9 points and a -4.
Yeah, I think right at this point, like halfway through the season, and we're about halfway through the season, like Booyam has showed so much more than these other two guys, and I'm waiting. I want to see him take that lineup overall. Like I want to see him that jump in the lineup. I want to see him on that first pair. I want to see him getting more ice time because he's played very well. I think a lot of these assists have been tip-ins. Like they would have been his goals if not a tip or a deflection going in. And I don't know. I'm just super happy for him. Like I'm excited. I don't know if he'll make the next step to Detroit for next season or if he's back here running the top. Like they're gonna move him up. If he's producing this way in a sheltered role, it's hard to say. I just want to see him make that next jump of moving up in the lineup and maybe being paired with. Maybe he needs to be paired with Wallander because he's been paired with a veteran, and maybe that'll help calm Volley down. I don't know.
I mean, look, historically on the show, as soon as I call somebody out, they go on a tear afterwards. So
Is that what you're trying to do?
Sure.
Oh yeah, he's been
I'd love to see it.
Just kidding.
Awful, horrible. No,
Oh.
I mean, again, he hasn't been bad, but at the same time, like it hasn't been great, and it's not what I expected out of him this season. And now when I say, guys are up there in the scoring ranks, you got to remember that Amadeus Lombardi is still 8th on the team in scoring, and he hasn't played since December 1st, and he's only got 20 games this season, and he's still 8th on the team in scoring. Antti Tuomisto is just ahead of him by 1 point. Like there's still a scoring deficit on this team that we need to get figured out. But yeah, I mean, in the defensive rankings, if you're just ranking the young guys and not including your older guys there, because like Brogan Rafferty's having a really good season too so far. He's got 10 points in the 31 games. He's a +3. He's been solid on defense. But if you ask me to rank the 3 young defensemen,
well, Raph is
Booyam,
being pushed up.
2-0.
Raph's being pushed up by Booyam, so
They haven't played together.
yeah, they have. They played together this weekend. Both
On the power play,
games.
they played together.
The lineup that the Griffins sent out had Booyam and Raph on the same line.
Because Booyam spent most of the season while you disappeared on us, paired up with Didier. This is the first weekend Booyam's moved up to that second pairing that I can think of to memory. Someone would have to correct me if I'm wrong. But overall, through the season, it's been Booyam and Didier. So Raph's points in production is not being lifted up by playing with Shai Booyam. I want to give Raph the credit where he deserves it. I think Raph's actually spent a lot of time with Vero, and then, a mixture of Wallander or Lagesson or whoever they're throwing in there. But, I mean, yeah, if you ask me to rank the 3 young kids right now on defense, Booyam stands out among the most. He had a fantastic weekend. And I know I said that to our buddy Andrew Rinaldi that was there Friday night with us as well, former guest on the show a few times, works at the Calder Times. I said Booyam was the best player on the ice Friday night, and immediately, thank you. Like he didn't want to say it and sound crazy, but he was. And Saturday we saw it again. He still played really well, and this is just consistently what we're seeing. And I think that's the key word for Booyam right now is consistency. Yeah. It doesn't matter where he's at in the lineup. We're seeing consistent play. So I do agree. Seeing him move up this weekend was great, and I'd like to see him maybe get those first line minutes. But seeing him second line, running a power play unit in his rookie year, that's huge. More than we've seen out of a lot of defensemen. You got to remember, Albert Johansson's rookie year, he spent sheltered on the third pairing pretty much the whole time. And you're seeing Coach Watson trust Booyam with important minutes already. And that's crazy. So good.
I'm trying to remember what game it was too. He was out there for the last minute of the game. Like pulled goalie, like he was out there. So he's the coach trusts him, and he's been able to
put a lot of trust in a lot of these guys, but he definitely trusts Shai Booyam. We'll say that. Enough about the defenseman because I can continue to talk about Shai Booyam's performance probably for another 20 minutes. I want to talk about Nate Danielson. We saw him get off the schneid the other night against Chicago, get that goal, and that was good. And a lot of people just are always concerned with his point production. Now, mind you, he's still fourth in the team in scoring, 22 points in 38 games, 4 goals, 18 assists, which is, we expect the assists to be higher for him. He's a great setup guy. His vision's unreal. And he's still, as Dan Watson even said multiple times this weekend, he is the perfect 200-foot player. He's exactly as advertised when it comes to that. But I want to point out something that I picked up during that Winged Wheel live show, because ice time was talked about. And as you know, the AHL doesn't post any stats for this team outside of the basics. There was games in that Manitoba series where Nate Danielson played 25 minutes in that game.
Wow.
They were asking a lot of him for down the stretch there. Well, you saw his points fall off. Remember, we talked, there was a good stretch of games where he didn't have a point.
Yeah.
And thinking back to it now, I'm like, wow, yeah, he did play a lot of minutes in a lot of those games. Now, granted, you'd think more ice time, more opportunity, but at the same time, you're exhausted as a rookie in this league playing 25 minutes when you're not supposed to be expected to play 25 minutes at this level as his age. And then you saw them dial that back. He mentioned Wednesdays when they started to dial that back, and Wednesday he scored. And this weekend his ice time was dialed back a little bit. Still first line, but you saw more production, more consistency out of him. So I think where he kind of fell off there and we started to get concerned, there was a big stat that we didn't have available to us that we were missing. And that he was just being asked to do way too much. And the good on the coaches for identifying it. And now he's back in the right situation. So I am assuming we'll start to see his production pick up. But again, just a fantastic weekend from Nate Danielson too. I think he played incredible this weekend. I don't think he had many turnovers, which if you think back during that stretch of games I'm talking about here, turnovers were a problem. And you're thinking, okay, yeah, if he's playing 25, 26 minutes a night, he's exhausted. Yeah, no wonder he's turning the dang puck over. So that was kind of an eye-opener when that was called out.
That's crazy. How do they get the time on ice stat?
That was Coach Watson directly from him.
Oh, okay. So we got to ask Waddy for the time on ice stats when we're down there next time we see him.
I guess so. Yeah. I'd love to have access to those. With that and face-offs, and we'd be a much happier podcast, but maybe someone can send them to us. Now, I'm sure that's tracked by the Grand Rapids Griffins. The AHL would call that an unofficial stat since it's tracked by the team. But I don't know why you'd lie about ice time, especially playing that much.
Yeah.
Anyways, that makes sense to why he fell off, though, a little bit there.
Well, and you see, like, Manitoba plays such a tight defensive game too. It's just like the trap style, and I hate that. But you put Nate out there, and that's he's good defensively, offensively, and like we sit next to a lot of the scouts at the games, and like they go off on him, like they love the kid, like that's who they're there to watch, and for the most part, just because we have such a good prospect pool, but they're ranting and raving about him, his defensive IQ, his hockey IQ, and his depth when he's playing. Like he's always in the right spots. It's tough for me because I'm like, you want to see the points, right? You want to see the points. He's getting the time. This weekend, in those 3 games, he had a goal and 2 assists. He was on the top line. He made Elmer better, I would say. So like having Elmer on his side, that was good chemistry. You saw for a while, like Watson was helping out Nate. That was good chemistry. They've kept those 2 guys together. I don't know if we'll ever see those guys split at this point.
I wouldn't if I was the coach, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, he's done well. He's done what he's been asked for this season. It's tough for me to be like, he's probably back here again next year, or I don't know. He might have a crazy off season if he pulled back up. Who knows right now with the way things are going? I don't know.
Are you saying Nate would be here next season?
I don't know at this point. Nobody knows.
I disagree. That is a take I will disagree with. Look, to the casual fan, I'm not calling you a casual. To the casual fan that doesn't watch every Griffins game, they look at the points, right? And they just try to assume what's going on with the team. As someone who has put himself through watching, literally, I haven't missed a Griffins game this season, maybe outside of one. And that was a rough game. Those were the nights I was in Toledo and they were playing, and they were usually very rough games. So yeah, we lost because I wasn't watching. Sorry, folks. But Nate Danielson is as advertised from his draft profile. And I think he's exactly what the Red Wings wanted to get out of him. Do you want more points? Of course, every player you want to see more points from. I want to see more points out of everyone on the team. But to play the style of hockey he's playing, look, you'll see a lot of those rookie scorers. Like you think about Jonathan Berggren, his rookie year. Great putting up the points, terrible defensively, like minus 14, something crazy like that. Nate Danielson's playing his first season of pro hockey, 4th on the team in points and a +8 on the team. For a guy who's playing the minutes he's playing, especially knowing those stats now, to be a +8 defensively, that 200-foot game of his is so solid. And again, putting him back on the line with Elmer and, of course, still being paired up with Austin Watson, the familiarity was there, and we saw some results from it, which is great. So I think as he gets more comfortable, again, being with the people he's used to being with, you'll see points follow. But I don't think this is a kid that you're going to expect to see score 20 goals this season. I would put my stamp of approval on Nate Danielson moving up if he's got 15 goals, 30 assists. He does that. He did everything I expected of him this season. I did not expect him to go out there and be a 60, 70-point player. He's not Jonathan Berggren in the AHL. Because Jonathan Berggren didn't care about anything else in the ice but to score goals and get assists. And that's fine, because that's what we expected him to do. This is what I expected Nate Danielson to do. And of course, you look at his junior points, right? They were off the charts. They're crazy, but junior's a high scoring league. Goal scoring is down in the AHL. Goal scoring is up or down in the AHL. It's really hard to tell. Goal scoring is up in the NHL, so you're probably going to see him produce more there. But the biggest thing that fans got to understand is just Nate Danielson's vision. His vision, when he's got the puck on his stick to find an open guy to give them an opportunity, is unreal. And you don't see that without watching the games. You can't see it without watching every minute of every game that he's on the ice. But when you do step back and watch it, it's freaking insane. And then it relies on the guy that he gets that puck to make the right move, either to score, shoot the puck, or pass it to the next open guy. But there's a lot of opportunities in the offensive zone that Nate sets up that just don't come to fruition because the guy that receives the puck might not make the right move with it. And that's fine. That's how this goes. And that comes back to that selfish conversation. Nate Danielson's not a selfish player. He's passing the puck, trying to get things going, and maybe they don't go. And that, again, comes down to who he's playing with or what happens at that moment in time. Maybe he made the right read to get it to the guy, but there's a guy all over him right away. When you got Manitoba playing that trap style, that happens. So Wings fans shouldn't be concerned about Nate. Nate's playing very well, and I think you're going to see just that development continue. I think you'll see a big second half of the season from Nate Danielson, and I don't think he'll be a Grand Rapids Griffin next year. Now, where does he line up with the Red Wings? I still say all centers should start as a wing. Look what Marco Kasper's been doing on the wing. I think you see something like that up there, and when that opens up the door, you'll probably see points galore. But he's never going to be probably a 30-goal scorer in the NHL, but he's going to put up 40, 50, 60 assists. Like, that's just going to be his game. And who doesn't love setup guys like that? Like, I think of Patrick Kane when I think of setup guys. Like, Kane can shoot, but he doesn't shoot first. When he does shoot, it's great, but he's always setting up guys like Alex DeBrincat to find the back of the net. Nate Danielson's going to be able to go do that. I still think his ceiling is second line center in the NHL, but he starts as a winger when he gets up there.
That's what I was going to ask. I pulled up Marco Kasper's stats from last season as well. He's 14 goals, 21 assists, 35 points with a +9. So looking at Nate.
And Nate was still on pace to outpace him, I believe.
Nate's at 4 goals, 18 assists. So he's close on the assists. He's only 3 away, but he's 10 goals away.
10 goals away to the halfway mark of the season, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like,
this is the point where Kasper turned it on last season, though, was from here on out. So I'm wondering what Nate, that's what I said. I don't know where he ends up, but if he does end up going up, do you think they start him out as, I could see that him being here if they want to truly move him in as a center, right?
Sure, yeah. I think that's a terrible mistake if they do that, but yeah.
I'm just asking questions. I don't know.
No, yeah, no, I'm saying I could see them.
Wow.
If they want him to be the true center, then yes, they would probably still keep him here for sure, or for half the season, or start just like Marco. Start the season here, 1 game. Bye, you're gone. Bye.
I hate that. Don't do that. I hate that.
Exactly.
I hate that.
But I fully believe, Travis and I have said it multiple times that I believe you should start in the NHL as a winger. Like when Amadeus Lombardi inevitably gets that call, I think he'll get the call as a winger and got him on the wing with some of the Wings players is going to be just freaking insane. But yeah, I like that move, and it allows Nate to get comfortable at that level, and then go out there and you're always working face-offs behind the scenes, and then you go get comfortable and stronger in the face-off circle, and then you slot back into center, and you go second line center behind Dylan Larkin, and everything's.
And we win a Stanley Cup. Duh. Like it's
sure,
easy.
yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of other things that got to happen for that too. But it also appears that Todd McClellan likes to put the kids that are centers on the wing too. I think he likes what he did with Marco Kasper here. I think we're all big fans of what he's done with Marco Kasper already. And I think that's the move. I think that proves right there. Just his production since he's done that proves that it's the right move.
Well, he's paired him with his favorite line mate as well, of Jonathan Berggren, and Berggren's been being able to produce
Kasper?
as well with Kasper, right?
Kasper's been on the top line with Larkin and Raymond.
Well, how can you not produce when you're on the top line with those two?
Exactly. Which is, if he wasn't, then we'd have concern, but he is, and that's great. So, no, I mean, yeah, throughout the season, you've seen Kasper and Bergie plenty of times too, but Kasper moving up to that top line frees up an Alex DeBrincat to play on that second line with Kopp and Kane, and allows Kane and DeBrincat to play together, and that usually produces magic every time. So
Yeah.
it's done exactly what they wanted to do, and this is not to get too on a tangent about the Red Wings here, but when we saw Joe Veleno get moved up to that first line for that stretch there, and yeah, there was a couple points that were produced, but I still wasn't loving that, because if you know me, I don't think we should have re-signed Joe Veleno. Sorry, but at the same time, I like that Todd made the adjustment quickly, gives Marco the opportunity. Then Marco, I threw it on our Twitter page the other day. 3 out of the 4 games at that point when I had posted it were multi-point games for Marco Kasper. Love to see that. So yeah, Nate Danielson, if you have concerns, to wrap it back up to him and to wrap this segment up, if you have concerns, you shouldn't. And if you do, jump on Flow Sports, get the subscription, watch a few Griffins games, and you'll understand why everyone's so high on this kid.
Or just turn on our notifications and you'll see every highlight.
That also is the case there too. We don't post as many highlights as we used to, where it was like every little play where something magical happens, we were posting it. But at the same time, yeah, we do post a lot of Nate Danielson content. So there is that. But outside of that, man, anything else to wrap up just the games and those players this weekend before I move on?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we called out what we needed to last time we recorded, and it seemed like there was a fix with the lineup, with the power play. It was, Austin Watson out there being Wreck-It Ralph, just throwing the body, and the power play got a little bit of Fix It Felix there too. So I thought it was great, and hopefully, like, we see this consistency moving forward for these next 3 games, because they are all division rivals, Manitoba and Rockford. And we come away with some points and start stacking on the leaderboard. But that's about where I'm at.
I love the Fix It Felix reference. Oh, that's such an inside joke. Sorry, folks.
I was trying to figure out how to put that in there all night. So.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. But yeah, like you said, the next 3 games are all division opponents. The Griffins head to Manitoba this week. Thursday at 8:00, they play the Manitoba Moose. Then Saturday at 3:00 in the afternoon, our time, Eastern time here, they play Manitoba again. And then next Wednesday, the Griffins come back home to start off another 3-game homestand here against the Rockford Ice Hogs that Wednesday. And then they have a Friday-Saturday matchup with the Colorado Eagles right before the All-Star game, which there's not really an all-star break, but that is that matchup. And I'm excited for Colorado to come to town. I don't remember I was at those games last year when they were here. I think I might've been at one of them, but it's a fun matchup with those 2 teams usually.
Well, yeah, especially I'm sure you'll be at the February 1st one. I'm sure that was circled for you. It's Princess Night. So
every year you don't miss your opportunity to say that Princess Night's my favorite. It is not my favorite, just so fans are aware. But yes, those are the games coming up here. And like we said, the Griffins still sitting at the top of the Central Division now by 3 points over the Texas Stars here. Just to give you the rest of the division update as it stands as of today, which is January 19th. You got Milwaukee sitting 3 points behind the Texas Stars. Chicago right behind them at 38 points. Rockford rounding out the top 5 there at 36 points. Iowa at 30 points. Manitoba down there at 24 points, rounding out the division. If you ask where the Griffins rank in the league overall, the Grand Rapids Griffins are still 5th in the AHL at this point, right behind Laval, Rochester, Hershey, and Calgary. So that's the division update there. That's all we really have for this episode. We hope everyone did have a fun weekend outside of the Lions losing. There was a lot going on in Grand Rapids. You had the game Friday night, you had the Dino night Saturday night. Again, elite jerseys, probably the second best one of the season. I still think the gridiron ones are my favorite at this point, just because of how cool that whole look looked. But the Dino night ones were really good. You had the great skate going on. Hopefully, fans got to go downtown, skate with their favorite players, get some stuff signed, and the Griffins Youth Foundation benefits from that whole event. I know when I was there last night, the fundraiser board was at $16,000 going to the Youth Foundation, which is fantastic. And I'm sure as the event's gone on, as of recording now, there's still a half hour left. I'm sure that number's gone up. We'll be excited to see what that ends up rounding out to be there. And like we said, too, you had Windwheel Podcast Night in Grand Rapids, another success for them. Happy for the boys. Love to see them. And hopefully get one of them back on the show here soon, too, to recap their experience, kind of talk Griffins now that they got to actually watch some games in person. And it's not us asking questions they don't know the answers to, because they don't watch every Griffins game like we do. It happens. I don't expect them to. They watch enough hockey on their own at this point. That's what we're here for. We're here to give the Griffins answers. But no, it's always, like we said, it's always fun to see the boys. And it was good to see so many fans this weekend. The arena was packed every single night. It was such a good experience. And this is the time of year where the arena does get packed. It's wintertime. People think about hockey, and it's the second half of the season where you start making the playoff push. The fans get more bought in. Seats are more full. It's just a fun environment for everyone. So good weekend all around, except for the Lions losing. That one's going to sting for a minute. Maybe we'll be emotionally okay to talk about that next episode. But outside of that, nothing else from myself to add. Any final thoughts from you, sir?
Yeah, I do want to do just two quick things. The first one is the Dino night. I love that the Grand Rapids Griffins really leaned into this for the jerseys with the glow in the dark, but also having the dinos on the concourse. That was nice to kind of lean a little bit more in the theme. You saw the shirts were being sold at the store, and the jersey giveaways as well. So I was able to grab a couple extra for my family that not huge fans. So I got a couple extras that we'll probably be raffling off throughout the season. And the second one is I just got to give a quick shout out to Kristen with the Griffins. She was able to set up a perfect weekend for me and my family, getting us down to the High Five Alley, and then also hooking up my nephew for his birthday some donuts as well. So what a huge shout out to that. So to her for doing all that for us. So I appreciate that.
That's awesome. I love everyone with the Griffins. They all do such great work and are so awesome to work with for everything.
Oh, yeah.
So that's awesome that you had a great weekend, man, with the family. I love that. And, like I said, 3 out of the 4 points we took. I'm happy with that too. But that's where we'll wrap this episode up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As always, we got to thank our sponsors of the show, DraftKings, and, of course, Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST. Saves you a few bucks on your order and also supports the show. And, of course, the Hockey Podcast Network for being great partners with us. But without our Patreon subscribers, the show would not be possible. It's because of all of you and the love you guys show us that we continue to get to do this every week and produce the stuff we want to produce for you guys. And I know I keep saying it every week, but there will be more content coming soon. We're going to record a Patreon exclusive episode literally right after this. If you want to jump over there and check those out, those are uncensored, they're unhinged, they're sometimes about hockey, sometimes about everything else, but you kind of get more the true thoughts and opinions. And if you want to hear me swear a few more times than I ever do in the regular show, that's usually where that all ends up anyways. And of course, unedited episodes of the show with no ad breaks, none of that stuff, all get posted to Patreon as well. So head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast. Check out the tiers over there. Join the folks that have already joined us. And those folks are...
We got Alan, Derek, Elaine, Griffin, John in Florida, Lori, Michael Asante, and Randy.
Perfect. Thank you guys. Like we said, more content coming for you guys soon. I know we owe you guys some live streams. We want to do that with you guys too. We just got to set up dates in advance so you all are available to come hang out with us. But we want to do a whole bunch more, get some exclusive stuff over there and secure some more stuff for giveaways to be able to do some exclusive giveaways to Patreon as well. So like we said, patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast. Check out the tiers. They're super affordable. We keep it as cheap as possible, but it's enough to help support the show and allow us to do some extra things. And as that grows, we'll be allowed to do more extra things and maybe, do some extra fun stuff, up the content quality, get rid of a few ads, hey, things might happen. So head over there, check it out. We appreciate all you guys. But with that, I'll wrap this one up. Thank you again for everyone tuning in. Have a great week, a safe week. If you're up here in Michigan, the weather is going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely frigid outside. I think the high tomorrow is 0 degrees. That's Fahrenheit, not Celsius for you Canadians. But it's going to be absolutely miserable out here. So stay safe, have fun. But until then, go Griffins, go Walleye.
Stay warm, Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.